Okay, this is not the lecture I had wanted to give you. Uh, so I don't know if any of you have been paying attention to the Slack channel. But yeah, this is pretty sad. Yeah, when you wake up in the morning and your project has 300 virtual machines launched on it, you kind of don't need coffee to wake up. So yeah, I spent the last several hours doing incident response on my project, and I figured, hey, why don't I turn this into an opportunity? So y'all have an opportunity here to learn about what do you do when your cloud project gets totally hosed. And this is sort of the reason why you're using Vocarium accounts that are completely locked down, because if you were to run CloudGoat, like I am running for you, and you got compromised, they could easily wipe out. $50 is nothing. In fact, I don't know how much this is going to cost me. But yeah, when you're running about 6 hours of 300 VMs that are at C4X large, I don't know what that's going to turn out to in terms of my bill, but I'll let you know once I get it. So I am actually going to walk through the level, because I actually think it's more, this actually is the universe telling me I need to teach more defense. It's like, dude, you're teaching all offense. I'm gonna force you to do something else. And so I am actually gonna turn this into an opportunity to teach you a little bit more about defense. And actually, when you go through and you look at how this particular level was set up, it's a recipe for disaster, actually. And so for it not to have been compromised for about the week that I had it up was actually kind of a miracle. But we're going to go through this just because it happened. It happened about less than 12 hours ago. So I'm going to go through exactly what happened. So you wake up in the morning, you have 300 virtual machines. You're like, what the heck happened? And I mentioned earlier that CloudTrail is where you would go to get all the logging for your project. So that's what I'm going to show you. It's just sort of like the backwards tracking to figure out, because I actually had multiple levels deployed. I think last night, because Jamie had asked for it, I deployed RCE web app. And then, so I had 2 levels deployed. And I have a bunch of, I mean, you're looking at all these AWS access keys that are like we're giving away like candy that you're coming across. It's like, well, which one was it? And how do you figure out, like if you have an access key that's compromised that has launched all of this stuff, how do you track down which one it is? And how do you lock that thing down and tell AWS that you have done so they can re-enable your project? Which is what I had to do. So this is probably going to be a different kind of lecture than I had planned, but it still might be useful to any of you who eventually navigate an AWS project of your own, so you can see this. What I'm going to first do is do a level review. What was this level doing that allowed it to get hijacked? So, I was trying to, someone was saying, oh, the EC2 SSRF website was down. I'm like, okay, I don't want to redo the level. I just know in my console that it's there. I can get the IP address from the console. So I clicked on the console and I had this huge list of VMs. I'm like, uh-oh, I got something else to do. So then I also checked my email after that, and AWS was like, hey, we shut down your account because we think that it's been compromised. And then they disabled my root account credentials, so I had to recover that. It wasn't a root account compromise. If they would have compromised the root account, they could have done other things, like get at the billing and this, that, and the other. But they compromised, well, the account they compromised had access to everything too. But I'm going to, in fact, I'll probably navigate a little bit. I'm going to go through the IAM policies specifically that led to this as well. So I'm going to hopefully go through most of this. And then if you have any questions, go for it. Like, I don't know if I'll be able to answer them because I'm still trying to figure out what exactly happened. But I actually, on the CloudGoat GitHub, you can see this, I reported an issue because the credential that did get compromised was way over provisioned. Even for the exercise you were doing, it was way over provisioned. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about that. Okay, so this is the AWS CloudGoat EC2 SSRF Post-mortem lecture. I hope I don't have to give this lecture ever again, but here we go. So I have written down some things that I want to, the first thing I want to do is a level review. So what did this level have? So this is the flow chart. And if those of you who haven't done it, hopefully you can make some sense of it, but those of you who have done it, this is even better because you actually know what these roles are doing. You're given a role, the Solus role, and the Solus role allows you to list the lambdas that the project has, but it doesn't allow you to invoke any of them. And so you try and invoke it, it fails. But as part of the listing, when you list the lambda, you see another set of AWS keys. And those are the lambdas keys. So you're like, okay, I will take on the lambda role, and that's what this, the first step is. And then this is the WREX role. And these sets of credentials allow you to list all the EC2 instances running on the project. And as part of that, you can see the IP address of some instance that's running. And so you go and you visit that IP address. So that's this step. And you discover this IP address, which was what I think, Wei, you were trying to get at last night. You were trying to get to this site, and it was down. And this is the site I was going to check. And this has an SSRF where you can actually get its credentials. So when you get this EC2's credentials, you find that you have a list bucket access. And then you list the bucket, and then you see this shepherd profile. And this shepherd profile then allows you to invoke the original lambda, and you're done. Okay? So I'm going to show you so the way the CloudGoat levels are launched is through something called Terraform. And so if you've taken the cloud class, you'll see that infrastructure as code is a thing that you need to do to scale a cloud deployment. So you can either specify it declaratively using templates that, hey, these are all the resources I want, this is how you configure them, and then here, go launch it. Or you can do it programmatically. You can do an imperative Python script, like AWS has got this, it's called CDK, which is like a Pythonic way of deploying infrastructure. You write a Python program to do it. Terraform is more of a specification. So you have a bunch of these Terraform files that specify the kinds of roles and policies, the kinds of EC2 instances you want created, the kinds of RDS databases you want created, and you say, Terraform, launch all of that. And then it will launch all of it, and then we have this level deployed. So when I deploy a level, when I bring up and bring down a level, I'm using Terraform to say, bring all of those resources up, and then Terraform to say, bring all those resources down. Now, as part of the Terraform operation, you specify these policies and roles as templates. And so the CloudGoat wants every individual level to be uniquely named so that you don't get any confusion. And you see those unique strings in the CloudGoat levels, and that's what some of this templating that you're going to see is doing. So what I want to do is I'm going to go into CloudGoat. If you were to git clone CloudGoat, you would get what you see here. And then the scenarios are in here. So all of the Terraform sort of information to launch each scenario, and sorry, you can't read that very well, but there's like 6. And you can see there's EC2 SSRF, which is the level that got compromised. So I'll go into that. And then this is basically the level specification. You can see a Terraform directory. This is the thing that actually gets called to launch the level. And then, And then you can see all of the Terraform files that are used to bring resources up. And you can see there's something that says, this is the kind of EC2 instance I want. These are the IAM users, roles, and policies I want you to instantiate, and so on. That iam.tf.new is my suggested modification to the IAM.tf file to get rid of what we just experienced. But I'm going to edit IAM.tf just to show you what it is. Oh, you can see there's an S3 bucket that's created as well. But I'll show you what IAM.tf had in it. So you can see the start of this is create a bunch of users. So the Solus user, the WREX user. If you scroll down, you see the Shepherd user. It's named a little bit differently. I think that's just a spelling mistake. And then you can see the user policy. So the first thing it does is create the users. The next thing it does is create the policies that I'm going to attach to these users. So that's what this thing is. And so you look at the Solus policy. And the Solus policy has access. So we talked about policies. It's got effect, which is allow. The action that you want to allow, which is to get and list the lambdas, right? But not execute any of them. So this is why you get denied when you invoke that thing. And then on all resources, because this is specific to Lambda, so it just, you can start out the resource. So that's the one that you start out with. That's reasonable, right? Like, that's a reasonable credential as far as I can tell. And then you get the WREX policy. And this policy, does anyone see anything wrong with this policy? Like, what does WREX need in order for the level to work? Just to list the instances. What does it have? It's got everything. So really, the adversary could have taken WREX and said, launched all the EC2 instances from there, but they didn't. They decided that was too restrictive just to have EC2 access, which, in fact, when we look at what the adversary did, yeah, he did a little bit more than, or he or she, I'm assuming he, but it could have been a she, did a little bit more than just EC2 stuff. Actually, I take that back. I'm not sure. But there was like build templates and all this other stuff that was going on. So then, so that I would have probably restricted this to just list instances. Yeah, because the website you can get either way. Oh, it needed S3 read access to that bucket, right? Because you're gonna take on, so you're gonna list the instances. Oh no, the EC2 role needs the list bucket instance. So you would need, so for this particular level, one would need the EC2 list instances, and then you would need a role to list the S3 bucket that you need to pull out the Shepherd credentials on. Okay. I think they're using WREX for both, so maybe the mod for this one is to add both roles, the EC2 list and the S3 list as well. Okay, so then this is the one I cut and pasted into the Slack channel this morning. This is the last role. That was the last set of keys that were in that bucket were the Shepherd role. And so this is basically everything, right? Action everything on all resources. So by just exposing that key to anybody, I was hoping that it would be enough to restrict the website. Like we're going to talk about the cyber kill chain next week. Like you break one of the links in the chain, and then hopefully they don't get all the way to the end. So I was trying to target the link of the EC2. Like, yeah, if only Portland State people can get the EC2 stuff, then okay, they won't get the Shepherd full-on credentials. But that didn't work, and I don't know how that didn't work, but it just didn't work. So this is the role that got hijacked last night, and how do I know that? So the way I'm going to show you is I'm going to go through how I would investigate 300 VMs being launched onto my project. So that's what we're going to do next. So I'm going to go into CloudTrail. So if this were your project, you would go into your services, and then down here you would see there's your CloudTrail. So I'm going to click on my CloudTrail. And then the CloudTrail gives you your recent events. And you see, oh, I just logged in. So yeah, so I created a trail. Further on, like, I'll view all these events. You can see towards the end, I'm doing a whole bunch of deleting. Well, that's a whole bunch of deleting is going on this morning at like 7:40, because I was doing a lot of getting rid of stuff. But you can see all of your events. And these are the events, like whenever anything happens on your project, you have to go back through here and see what exactly happened. One of the things that you can see is the credential that was used to do that particular action. So CloudGoat is the user that I'm using to launch all of this stuff, okay? I know I have a bunch of, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter my logs. I know something launched a whole bunch of instances. And I might not know when it happened, but I do know the action. I'm looking for create a bunch of virtual machine instances, so I can actually apply a filter. And you can filter on a whole bunch of different things, but I'm going to, let's see, filter on event name. And the event to run an instance is run instances. And you can see right here at 11:40, shepherd, so the misspelled shepherd. So this is where I knew it was that role that got compromised. Those keys are the ones that you would have to go and revoke or rotate. This is the thing that AWS wants me to remediate before they re-enable my account. So shepherd, and 5 more. There's more than just 5. Or well, that's a VPC. There's like way more on each one. Like if you actually expand this out, let me do it on the middle because the execution started getting blocked, and you can start seeing. Look at all these network interfaces that are being brought up. Yeah. So, and these are all the instances that were brought up. So. It might be funnier now than it is later when I actually see how much this cost. Yeah, so now I know exactly when this stuff happened. The one thing that I might want to do next is find all the actions around that time range, right? So I know they all got launched at 11:40 last night. So now I'm going to go, what else did this person do? So I'm going to say, okay, let me select, well, I'll just do everything. Let me select a time range to dump all my logs. So I'll say I'll start last night, March 4th. And I'll start at maybe like 10 o'clock. And then I'll go till, let me see. I'll go to like 4 a.m. And so you can see exactly what the adversary is doing on my project from the very, oh wow. So some of the first things that were, so this is all on shepherd. So you can see the first thing is a little bit of reconnaissance. The adversary is saying, how much stuff can I launch on this person's project? So that's what the quota is doing. Describe the images is what are the virtual machine images that I have access to. And do I have access to a VM image that I can actually use to launch my sort of whatever my payload is? And then this copy image, the adversary actually had an attack image. So in fact, it's still sitting in my project. I was going to do a post-mortem on what exactly is running on this thing, probably a crypto miner. So then the copy image copies over a snapshot image. And so if you did the flaws level 4, that's basically what that copy image over is copying something that they can use to execute on my project is this thing. And then assumes a role. So it's doing some auto scaling and then just runs a bunch of images. So this is pretty quick, right? Like after copying the image over, making sure that all the quotas are known. And part of the list quotas is to say which regions can I launch instances into to make sure that which regions can I launch instances onto and what are the limits on this account in each one of those. Because if you try and launch 200 images or 200 machines and my quota for that region is 4, which it is on a lot of them, then it's just going to fail. And if the thing fails too much, that's what AWS will flag that. So that's one of the things that this list quota is trying to do, to get some reconnaissance on what would be allowable that wouldn't cause someone to notice. So that's what that is. Okay, so then the run instances happens. This is not the adversary. So you see the username, that's auto-scaling. So apparently the adversary created an auto-scaling group to make sure that if a machine got brought down, another one would replace it. I think what he's doing is doing a bunch of spot instances, and then those things can be preempted, and then this thing will wake up to kick it off. Okay. So one of the things you can do when you have this and you actually want to keep a copy of it, one of the things you can do in CloudTrail is, if you go to the dashboard, and this is something similar, you would get this in Stackdriver as well, you could actually create a trail off of this. And that's what I've done. So if you create a trail, you can specify the filter and then create a trail. And what it does is it'll save all the events that you have filtered into an S3 bucket. And if you've done the flaws to defender path, that's basically what's happening. Those records, this is exactly that exactly that last part of that level, is it copies it to the S3 bucket, and then you can query the S3 bucket. So that's what I've done. I have this Shepherd compromise bucket. And if you go in there, when you export the events into a bucket, you can see that these are all of the events that have happened across all of the regions. So I basically had to go in to every single region and delete the EC2 instances that were running on each one of these regions. So you can see, where's US? US East 1 has all of the action happened. Well, a lot of it happened. I think 200 were launched on this one alone. And then you can get, these are zip files that you can download. So the gzip JSON, which is what you're doing in flaws 2, is basically all the events enumerated in JSON. Okay. So let's look at one of these things. How do I then figure out where this thing came from? Let me go back to the CloudTrail logs. And then let me select that time range again. Yeah, I love this UI. It makes me so happy to have 2 scroll bars to... PM. And I'll just do midnight. I can actually just download these particular events as a CSV. This is what I posted onto the Slack channel. I'm like, yeah, maybe I should have you figure out where this stuff came from, but then I'm like, maybe I should just do this in class. So then if you launch this thing, you can get so this is what you would get if you actually went into that JSON file that I showed you earlier. You would get something that looks like this. Each one of these log entries has basically got an attribute that, and you can see like these are the IP addresses that were used to do these runs. So all of these run instances were done from these IP addresses. Okay. So then, how do I know where these IP addresses are? So you could do some network reconnaissance. You could do, one of the things you can do is a reverse lookup on an IP address. And if it says no domain, there's no authority for it, then you're out of luck. So all of these don't have an authority attached to it, but you can do a trace route to these things. And then figure out where, so this gives you an idea. This thing came from Bucharest. Then you can do the same thing on the other IP addresses. It probably didn't come from Bucharest, but that's what this thing is believing. So what's 140? 40.178. Also telling me Bucharest. probably is using. So this one comes from Brussels, Belgium. And then this last one, so I've done all of these already. Doesn't go anywhere. It's probably using Tor. So that that one doesn't give you any information. But hundreds of milliseconds means that it's probably over an ocean. So the fact that it came from multiple different places, all coordinated, leads me to believe it's probably a Tor thing. And then you would go and figure out how to, like, if you're the NSA or someone or the FBI and you're analyzing Tor exit nodes and correlating it with the entry, then you'd be able to figure out, oh, maybe this came from Russia. I don't know. Yeah, all right. So the other thing, one of the things that they did was create the AMI. I am happy to make this snapshot, this AMI, available to everybody if you want to. This is it, right? Like if you go into my EC2, they did that create image, which copied it over. This is the thing that got copied over. So the actual AMI is there. So you can, I was going to poke around later today to see what it had in it, but you could do that as well. If maybe I'll leave it open for people to look at. The other thing that I thought might be helpful if any of you need to script the deletion of a whole bunch of EC2 instances, because you don't want to be sitting there saying delete, 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 delete. So this is what I ended up having to do. Where is this thing? This is what I ended up having to do. I do a describe instances, and it gives me a JSON file. I probably should have parsed this thing using some JSON tool. Oh yeah, sorry about the, let me set the background. Oops. No, wow, having some hard times typing here. What? All right, well, my Vimming is. So describing the instances, if you do this and you find all the instance states that are running, you can filter. You can apply a filter on describe instances saying, hey, give me all of the ones, on this one I say, give me all of the ones that are running. You could say, give me all the ones that are CX4 or C4 extra large, which is the VM of choice for the adversary. And I could just go and you need the instance ID. And then you can send that instance ID to terminate instances to get rid of all your resources. Okay, so that is a quick tour of what I did this morning. Any questions? Probably, yeah. There might be. In fact, I bet you there's an auto startup script. Yeah, give it a shot.
Do you have any guesses on like how they got the credentials?
No, I don't actually. But the fact that it is the Shepherd credential, I'd have to take a look at the bucket, because actually the WREX or the WREX role could have gotten the Shepherd credential as well. So one of those two. And then how would they get the WREX role? How did they get the WREX role? They got from the describe instances of the Lambda. Yeah, so actually, yeah, they didn't necessarily need. They did not. So here, that kill chain didn't work because, you know, when you use the proxy to get the keys, that was a shared role. The WREX was basically the same access key was for both of those. Did you have an idea?
Well, so the other option is that I'm pretty sure your username on AWS is similar to like your name in real life.
Uh-huh.
So if they just Googled you, they would find your site, which is not blocked from people not seeing
The starting control, yeah.
literally just go to the labs and figure out.
Yeah, yeah. So the labs are public. So the way I was thinking it would get blocked was the EC2, the actual website that all of you are like, hey, it's not up, it doesn't work, I can't do the level. The adversary is like, oh, you don't need that to do the level, because the credentials that you list on the Lambda, like if you use the public credential for Solus to list the Lambdas, and you get the credentials for WREX, those credentials could list the bucket of that had Shepherd and then pull the Shepherd key directly without doing the SSRF. Yeah, that's a good theory. I don't know. I don't know how you wouldn't be able to. Yeah, I don't think that. I think the Cloud Trail is giving you exactly what AWS can debug, but the other parts, I don't. It's just conjecture. Yeah, yeah. I would have needed logs on my website. Which I don't. I mean, I have logs, but like, I'm not going to go through them. Yeah. I don't know, but actually, yeah, who knows? Or that we were all watching this thing, like, right? Yeah, or that I mean, there's not a lot of money on this account. There's some money on it, but there's not a ton. So. Yeah, but maybe they're getting desperate. Maybe ransomware isn't as a cash cow as they expected it to be. Any other questions about this thing? So the fallout of this is that the last two levels of CloudGoat are not assigned anymore. So I've told Jeff to just stop at Cloud Breach, and then I'm going to call it a day. Hopefully the other AWS stuff was enough for you to get an idea. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Jeff, oh man, he's taking a lie detector test as soon as I get out of here. I'm gonna strap him up. All right, so on to bigger and better things. So I'm gonna stop this since this is done.